Hey, what's up guys? It's Yags, and I don't think there's a weirder situation in basketball right now than the Philadelphia 76ers. And on paper, they actually have a pretty decent team, and I think most of you might agree with me, but here's where my head is at, right? So Embiid wasn't very good last year, right? Never really healthy, but he was very recently an MVP caliber guy. He actually won the MVP in 2023. You have Paul George, which I don't think he can be as bad as he was last season. There's just absolutely no way. So I feel like there's a bounce back season incoming for him. Tyrese Maxey should improve with more talent around him. Jared McCain might have a monster sophomore year. And I really like the VJ Edgecomb pick. I really do. And you still have Quentin Grimes, who is not signed yet, but if they bring him back, he had an awesome end to the season last year. And the depth actually looks okay. So if everything goes perfect, I can definitely see the Sixers being a top 4, top 3 team in the East and maybe even getting to the conference championship. But then there's the other side of this whole story. So just last week, the news came out that Jared McCain had tore a ligament in his thumb and that he will need surgery and he'll be out 4 to 6 weeks. So that's basically right at the start of the season, which isn't forever, but still, you need him to come back and find his form again. And honestly, McCain's second year breakout is an X factor for the Sixers' outcome this season. If Jared McCain slumps, if he's not as dynamic as that really strong 20-something game stretch he had last year, suddenly the offense has a couple of question marks. Then we have the Paul George situation. He's missing the start of training camp, still recovering from knee surgery, and you know the boogeyman in the NBA are always the knees. I thought the bounce back was coming because he took time off late last season, got the procedure done, and would be good to go for camp. And it doesn't sound like it. He needs all the ramp up he can get, and he's gotta look like his all-star self, because if he doesn't, also everything starts to crumble. But none of this really matters without Joel Embiid. Everything revolves around him. Even if McCain is popping off, Paul George rewinds the clock, and becomes that all-star caliber player. If Embiid isn't MVP Embiid, I don't think it really matters. He doesn't need to play every single game, but you do need at least 50 to 60 games from him, plus the playoffs. Otherwise, what are we doing? You might as well tank and, just hit the restart button. And right now, we don't know when he's going to play. So Daryl Morey basically said they're unsure of the timetable, unsure how much he'll do in camp, just completely unknown. And Embiid himself said he'll listen to his body, play it by ear, which is not what you want to hear. He missed the home stretch in most of last season, and I was hoping this offseason would get him right and we see more of him consistently. Look, I'm not naive. He deals with injuries every single season. But we're all hoping for a slightly healthier year, and I imagine most of the Philly fans were as well. Now, if he's somewhat regularly at the level you need him to be, and the rest of the talent hits, this is a really good squad in a wide open Eastern Conference. Low-key on paper, this might be their best chance in a long time to make the conference finals. Just think about it. You have basically no Boston, usually completely unstoppable force for the 76ers. Indiana doesn't have Tyrese Halliburton, although they're still a good team. They don't have the brain behind that team. The Knicks and the Cavs are really good, but they're not perfect. With peak Embiid, the Knicks front court can be exploited. And the backcourt of McCain and Maxey going at Brunson could be something. And then Cleveland's small backcourt is exploitable on defense. You could slot Philly into that third spot, battling with the Hawks, the Orlando Magic. Even if the Pistons get, a little bit better, you stack a few more regular season wins and you set up a favorable matchup. And yeah, there's a world where they're in the conference finals. I'm not saying that they're going to win the title. I still think the title is going to come out of the Western Conference. They're just better teams over there, I think. But everything would have to be perfect. But I think they could possibly shock a lot of people. Now let's talk the worst case scenario, because it is also very possible. The most likely outcome would be they don't do anything, Embiid can't stay on the court regularly or isn't at an MVP level anymore. Even All-NBA or All-Star might not be enough this year. Paul George maybe bounces back a little, but not to that late Clippers All-Star version. And Maxey can be awesome. McCain can be awesome. But if those two don't perform, it's just over. In their power forward situation, yeah, that's pretty horrendous. You might be starting Kelly Oubre at the power forward or Paul George at the forward, and neither of those should be your power forward. They lost Yabusele to New York, a team they're trying to compete with. And if Quentin Grimes comes back, that backcourt is crowded. You have Grimes, you have Max, you have Jared McCain, and you have VJ Edgecomb. A lot of guys who need minutes. So yeah, legit concerns on roster construction and health. Likely, it doesn't go well. But if it tips that way, then what? It's not as simple as the Bucks having a bad year and Giannis just asking out. right? With Philly, does any team want Embiid if they can't trust his health or his level of play? If you get the best version, of course, you want him, but there's a big contract, you have the health issue, and you have how he's actually going to come back from this surgery. So this season isn't just, can Embiid take them higher? Can he put up good enough stats, kind of like an audition, and be a tradable asset this offseason if the Sixers choose to reset? And Paul George, he's got a couple years left on that contract. That deal was always going to be bad by the end of it, but what if it's bad at the beginning? How do you get off of it? Maybe you don't have to if you're tanking anyway, but eventually you want the money off the books. Could you find a rebuilding team that takes that money for assets and you get a decent pick or a piece back? I don't know. I don't think so. Maxey, I'm gonna guess, is here for the next era, right? He's really young. He turns 25 in November, but you're paying him a pretty decent amount of money. Is there a world where the Sixers might reset the financial timeline and trade Maxey? A million teams would love him for sure. He's a really good player. And if you go that route, the foundation isn't awful, right? You have Jared McCain, you have VJ Edgecomb, Justin Edwards had a pretty good end to the season last year. You have Aiden Boma. He looked pretty solid as a backup big. You could land a top pick. There's interesting draft capital to play with. And that's where the Sixers get really confusing, right? But that's really the thing about the Sixers right now. They're super confusing because of that. They can go either way. You either tank or you go for it all. Do you throw in the towel now and just rebuild around Edgecomb, Maxey, and McCain? Do those three actually fit as your 1, 2, 3? Do you swap out McCain or VJ or Maxey to clean up the fit? Can McCain and Maxey coexist defensively in the backcourt? Or because they're so injury prone, you don't even need to publicly rebuild? You plan to compete and then end up bad because all your guys are just hurt all the time. This is why the range of outcomes is actually pretty crazy. So the Sixers are one of the few teams that if you told me that they would finish out of the playoffs or top 3 in the conference, I would completely believe you either way. And there's also jobs on the line here. So this season could decide if Nick Nurse keeps his job, first of all, and if Daryl Morey sticks around. Do you trust Daryl Morey to run a rebuild if it comes to that? I mean, do you really? Who can even trade for Embiid? What trade exists for Paul George? Do you think about moving Maxey just because of his current contract and you need to, mess around with the cap? I think all of that is actually in play. And I think one of the things that we need to keep an eye on this season is that Jared McCain could be unbelievable. He could have another breakout year. That stretch last year of those 20-something games that he had, he was about to run away with the Rookie of the Year award. Facts. Right? Monster numbers, basically no empty stats. He had roughly an efficient 20 a game and around 6 to 8 assists for a short period. He looked completely in control, fluid, and you have a new asset in VJ Edgecomb, who seems like he's going to be a really good player just on his traits and how he looked in Baylor. So there's a part of me that kind of wants them to just tear it down, but I just feel like Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse are just too egotistic to actually tear it down. And I think they should have tore it down last year personally, but they didn't. And they actually got lucky in getting the 4th pick because they had a real chance, if you guys remember, of actually losing that pick if they were at least 6th to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And like I said, the East is so weird right now as well because you have the Knicks and the Cavs are clearly the 2 best teams. They're pretty solid. And one of those teams should go to the finals. Atlanta and Orlando are actually making noise. I like that Atlanta team, and I really want to see how Orlando is going to fit this year with all the new pieces. I would like Toronto to be good, but I don't know where they're going to go. I think they have a weird lineup. Giannis is going to come out firing, right? He's basically the only decent player on that team. I personally don't like the Bucks. I don't like their team. I don't like their roster. I think Giannis is going to have to average like 35 and almost a triple-double for them to do anything this year. The Pistons, I really like that Pistons team. I want to see how they play out, but it's basically chaos, right? Nobody thought the Pacers would take Oklahoma City to a Game 7 last year and almost win the finals. So Philly, if everything aligns and their health is just good this year and the players show up to play, I don't know. They could win the conference championship and they could be in the finals. Like I said, their team on paper isn't bad, but their situation is just super, super confusing. But yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think. Comment below. Where do you guys think the 76ers will finish this year? What are we expecting from Joel Embiid and Paul George, and the rest of the crew? Let me know. As always, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit those 1,000 subscribers. I really appreciate you guys hanging around, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.